This episode of the Tom Retro Chronicle is brought to you by the song called New Blue Jeans by the artist called Benjamini. To check out more pod-type music, check out dig.ccmixter.org. Yeah, get going, son. A 1, a 2, a 3, 4, 5. It is the Tom Retro Chronicle with your host called Tom Retro.
Looking good, baby!
Tom Retro is also known as the Retro Guy and has a very interesting angle on things like sports, music, movies, books, and pretty much mostly life. He has a WordPress account, a very funny Twitter account, and overall a very interesting guy. Yeah. And also has very interesting interviews like me, Arnold Schwarzenegger, yeah. So let's head it to our very own very special host called Tom Retro. And welcome to the Tom Retro Chronicle. Welcome. Yeah, boys, what's up? And this is episode 18. This is episode 18 of the Tom Retro Chronicle. And I am taping this on a very, very cloudy, kind of pretty chilly Tuesday afternoon here in the Fargo, North Dakota. Alrighty. How about that national championship game last night? Goodness gracious, that was probably one of the most greatest. National championship games that I've ever seen. That game was pretty sick. So in terms of this show's content, I'm probably gonna talk about what my thoughts are about that game, and then probably sometime after that I'll be doing some bringing back some Alma Mater tales. I'm feeling a little bit more. I'm feeling the school spirit somehow for a while. So I'll be talking about that as well, and maybe something else. I don't really know what else is there for me to talk about. The Red Sox are doing pretty good, so can't complain about that. So anyway, let's get started. Well, first to start off, I suppose, with this topic. This is pretty much the third win the third win that I picked the right team to win it all. Essentially, I made 3 brackets this year. So the first one was Kansas. That pretty much was a blow. And then Indiana, I had another one, and then I had Louisville in another one as well. So So in terms of streaks, this is the second consecutive year that I've picked the right champion. I had Kentucky last year winning it all. And then the first win was the 2008 national championship game with Kansas and Memphis, which also turned out to be a really good game as well. So very excited about that too. So since I've been doing this whole bracket thing since 2007, when I had Ohio State and Florida in that game. So of course I picked Ohio State to win it all because they had Greg Oden at the time, he was certainly touted to be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft that summer. But back to the present right now. Going into that game, I thought, well, certainly you would probably expect that Trey Burke, who's the guard for Michigan, I knew he was going to have a pretty good game, and which he did. And he certainly, in terms of tournament games before, he was kind of mediocre against Syracuse in the Final Four game on Saturday. But essentially, he had a pretty good game. Trey Burke, at the end of the game, was 24 points. He had 24 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists. So a pretty good game for him. Certainly, you can probably expect that if he decides to enter the NBA draft, his stock is certainly going to rise by quite a bit. Essentially, he was 7 for 11 from the field. He was He had 7 free throws per 9 attempts. He did have 4 turnovers though, and also a block too. So, Tim Hardaway Jr., who was also the other guard, he had 12 points, 4 rebounds, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. So another good game for him. Glenn Robinson III, who was the forward, he had 12 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and but probably the biggest star for Michigan was probably Spike Albrecht, who pretty much came off the bench. I believe he was the substitute for Burke, and for pretty much most of the first half, all you could ever see from Albrecht, or however you spell his name, but all you saw from Albrecht was he was draining threes. I mean, come on. He had 17 points and a rebound. He did have 3 turnovers. He was 6 for 9 from the field, and he hit. God, how many threes did he hit? He hit 3 trifectas in the first half. It was absolutely nuts. He didn't really do all that much in the second half, so it wasn't that bad of a performance from him, especially coming from the bench. I mean, it was a good day for him. So, in terms of Louisville, you had Peyton Siva with 18 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. So definitely a good game for him. But the biggest stat that I saw from him was steals. He had 4 steals in the game. And then Shane Benahan, he had 15 points, 12 rebounds, and 1 assist and a steal. So he had a double-double in that game as well. So he definitely picked up his worth for that. But probably the biggest contributor for Louisville was Luke Hancock, who is a forward, 6'6", 200 pounds. He played for 30 minutes of the game. He had 22 points, 1 rebound, 3 assists, and 2 steals. And if you thought Spike Albrecht was great, oh man. The things that Hancock did to Michigan was absolutely insane. He was running 3 pointers with a lot more condensed space than Albrecht had. So it was actually a pretty good game.
it was a great game. No doubt about that. Oh man. All right. So, my overall thoughts before the game, I knew that it was going to be a heavily contested matchup. That was going to be that there was going to be a lot of offense in the game, a lot of pointers, a lot of 3 points, 3 pointers. You know, 3 pointers, dunks, alley oops. You definitely saw a lot of lob passes that ended up converting to alley oops. So, so it was a really good game. Certainly, I think pretty much one of the reasons why Michigan ended up losing that one was because John Beeline, the head coach for Michigan, ended up benching Burke for about 12 minutes in the first half. So certainly that was a questionable call by Beeline to sideline his pretty much his best player that ended up winning the National Player of the Year on Sunday. So definitely can't. So definitely can't do that to pretty much your best player, and not just your team, but pretty much the best player in the country, and Trey Burke. So certainly you could probably make the argument that that block. I believe it was Burke that made that block, but to me it looked like. I thought it looked like a clean block, and I'm really sure why the refs would really call that a foul. But I'm not really sure about that. So, I think I'm trying to remember what time that ended up happening. I think it was sometime in the second half. It was like the last 5 minutes of it. Basically, Louisville players running down the court, about to make a dunk, and then Burke ends up chasing him, and somehow ends up hitting the ball on the backboard, and the refs ended up calling it a foul. So I don't know. It looked like a clean block. Certainly the video that us viewers have are certainly not the angles that the refs would have in that situation. So certainly. If they had that certain angle, it probably would have been overturned as not really foul, but certainly a clean block. So really, other than that, the reason why it was a pretty good game, I mean, pretty much during the first half, Michigan was pretty much having its way with Louisville. I think the lead by Michigan was up by 12. I believe it was 35-23, sometime around that margin. And then once, trying to think. Let's see. Once Luke Hancock got onto the court, pretty much once he started raining down threes, it pretty much went down to getting close to pretty much a 1 point margin by the end of the half, going into halftime. So So the pretty much the score at halftime was 38-37, which I believe that's a 14-3 run, which certainly was pretty amazing to look at. So, um, once once the second half started, pretty much everyone knew what the tone of the game was. Pretty much, it was going to be up tempo, pretty much up tempo offense and defense. Pretty much attacking the boards, trying to get rebounds. There were certainly a lot of turnovers in this game, so it was definitely a pretty ugly game in terms of turnovers. If you're a basketball purist who believes in no turnovers, there were 9 turnovers for Louisville, and then there were 12 for Michigan. Certainly during the first half, Michigan had its way with the getting rebounds. I believe I tweeted about this, that Michigan had a 5+ rebound margin, and I ever since I really started to get back into watching basketball, pretty much I look at the rebound margin, and if you're winning the rebound margin, pretty much about 70% of the time you're actually leading the game, I think. So trying to think what else I could probably talk about. But that's some of the team stats. Michigan was 8 for 18. 3 of those 8 were by Spike Albrecht. And then for Louisville it was 8 for 16, which was 50% if you keep track of that. In terms of field goal percentage, it was 25 for 48 for Michigan, and then 28 to 61 for Louisville. So not really a good shooting performance by Louisville by any stretch of the imagination, but so it was a pretty good game. I think I'm trying to think if it's in terms of ranking it in terms of the top 5 greatest sporting moments that I've ever seen. Certainly, I would probably say I would still say that the 1998 Game 6 NBA Finals, when Michael Jordan hit the buzzer beater to defeat the Jazz and win his 6th NBA title, and then the rest is history. So that's still number 1 by any stretch of the imagination. So some other things that I would probably think about would be Super Bowl 42. Certainly that one was pretty cool. Let's see what else. Game 6 of the 2011 World Series. That one was pretty cool as well. So I think the game, the Louisville Michigan game, was certainly a top five game that I have ever seen. But in terms of number 1, nah, you definitely can't beat that. So pretty much a final thought. I think it was pretty cool to see the Big East Conference win just one more national championship before splitting into a different conference. Essentially, the Big East is no more. So it was definitely kind of a last hurrah for the conference itself. So it was pretty cool. So on to the next topic. Alrighty, and pretty much for the second topic, which is alma mater tales that I have. Lately, I've been pretty much thinking about all the 5 years that I spent in MSUM, all that stuff. So, I think I could pretty much go pretty much anywhere with this topic. So, um, I mean, if you're gonna ask me which semester I think was probably if I had to choose between the spring or fall semester, um, I don't know. I would probably have to think about that one. So I believe I technically kind of like the spring semester a little bit better. I mean, yeah, it's cold, chilly, and cold during the January days, but in terms of geography, it's pretty much what it is. What it is. I kind of like to think that um, once you pretty much get past February, it starts to get a little bit better in terms of temperature. I mean, you pretty much heard what I talked about last week about the certain seasons that I like to call here in Fargo, Moorhead, which is winter and road construction, which is still pretty much my favorite episode so far in this podcast, um, at least for this year. Anyway, I don't know. I tend to like to think a little bit more optimistic when it comes to my work. Um, in terms of homework, um, one example, that I could probably think of, which was I had to do pretty much one of the most biggest paper for class that I have ever done, which was um, maybe. Is it actually for college? Man, actually, it probably was for college, but anyway, what I had to do was for a class, which was environmental history class, which pretty much talked about from pretty much history from um, ancient Rome to basically right now. And basically, what we had to do was choose a topic to talk about and write up a paper for it, and also to do a PowerPoint slide presentation for that as well. So it was certainly a two-headed monster, that's for sure. So I didn't actually mind doing it. So it was actually kind of fun to do a PowerPoint presentation. So anyway, we had to choose a topic to discuss for basically a 12 to 13 page paper on a certain topic, and that was pretty much laid down for us in the class. So what I ended up deciding to do was since I was kind of more of the retro side of history. I decided to do Chernobyl, the Chernobyl disaster, and I believe it was April of 1986. It was quite a while ago. So anyway, we were given the assignment basically sometime around September of 2011. So, and basically it was pretty much due by, essentially the whole thing was due by December. So we certainly had quite a bit of time to decide on doing something as well for it. So there were certain deadlines that we had to have at least 10 sources that pretty much covered the topic of it. Try to remember some stuff that I remember from writing about it. Some of the interesting stuff is that there's still radiation in that area, that region in near Kiev in the Ukraine, which was, I believe, it was still part of the USSR at that time. So, try to remember some of the stuff that I remember. There was at least some people. There were some people that still lived in that general area. Um, but in terms of big cities, there was basically no one really there for that. There were a lot of animals, though, if I remember right. Uh, I can't really remember if the animals had some sort of mutations to it, so I can't really say all that much about it. But from what I read was that basically it can look like a ghost town. I mean, the buildings were overgrown with vegetation. The roads were had grass crawling up from under it, making pretty much the street crack and crackle. Um, so, so what I'm trying to get at is with this whole thing is, even though that it was pretty much one of the largest projects I have ever had to do, essentially, if I remember right, I got, God, what was the grade I got on that? Um, Actually, I didn't really. Once I got the grade, I believe it was. Actually, I think it was probably a B, maybe a B for the class. So I didn't really get to see what the grade was for my project. I can't remember all that much about it. So anyway, looking back on it, I mean, papers. I mean, the average paper that I had to write was at least, God, I don't know, like at least 4 to 5 pages long. Sometimes, usually professors usually like to put in a word limit, or like a word minimum, like say like 1,000 words, which is usually at least 3 pages. If you like to count, like say there's like 200, 350 words per page, that would basically add up to at least 3 pages. So there's that as well. So let's see, trying to think of some other things that about it. I didn't really start on the paper until about after October, like after Halloween. So I mean, yes, maybe I did sort of procrastinate on it, but I knew what I was doing. I mean, I laid out basically a plan that I would do at least 3 pages a night, just to lighten the workload that I already had with my classes. So, I mean, along with that class, which was a 3 credit class, trying to think what else I had. See, I had a documentary class, like a TV documentary class. I had photography, like TV news videography. I don't even know why they call it photography. It's just stupid. But anyway, TV news videography, which was 9 credits essentially. I believe I had 15 that semester, but I can't, for the love of me, I can't remember what else I had that semester. But anyway, so anyway, back to the subject. I went basically to my alma mater's computer lab and spent at least 4 hours a night working on the paper. Slowly but surely, I did eventually get to it. So, anyway, um, pretty much once I got the paper done, pretty much, I mean, it was basically relatively easy once I got the paper peer reviewed. Um, which we had like groups of essentially 3 to 4 people that pretty much looked over the paper, and I can't remember what exactly the comments that I had for mine were, but essentially they thought it was a pretty good paper. So I definitely brought up quite a few points. So essentially, the professor asked us to start off the paper with a question. So in terms of a question, I had to really think quite a bit on it, at least maybe a couple days on it. So I thought, since Chernobyl was probably the biggest nuclear disaster in the history of mankind, which it still is, but in terms of that, certainly it did play a part in ending the Cold War. So I thought, God, what was that question? Essentially, the question that I posted was, did Chernobyl have an impact on affecting the ending of the Cold War? Did Chernobyl have an impact in ending the Cold War? So I don't remember the whole question exactly, but essentially I believe that was the question that I posted. So some interesting things that I learned from the project was that in doing the research on it, I pretty much discovered that pretty much Chernobyl was the biggest thing to happen, biggest thing that happened to the Soviet Union. Essentially, what I learned before the disaster, once Mikhail Gorbachev took over as pretty much the leader of the USSR, the Soviet Union. Pretty much by that time, the Soviet Union was pretty much in pretty bad shape. I mean, economic collapse was pretty much getting close to coming pretty soon. So pretty much before the year that Chernobyl happened, about a few months before that, he basically laid out a plan. I can't remember what the plan exactly was, but it was essentially a rebuilding plan to bring back the Soviet Union back to where it was, before. Certainly back to the days when, say like the 60s or something, back when they were at the height of certainly the power. You could probably say that, certainly you could say that the Soviet Union's height was during the 1950s or something like that. So essentially, they were basically laying this plan out, and pretty much once Chernobyl happened, pretty much it costed the country pretty much millions and billions of dollars or whatever the whatever the Soviet Union had in currency. So much once Chernobyl happened, it was pretty much the final blow. So essentially, the answer to the question, yes, it did, but there were certainly some other factors as well. Certainly, the Soviet Union's Vietnam version, the version of the Vietnam War for the Soviet Union was the invasion of Afghanistan in 1980, which proved to be quite a costly war for them. Certainly, I'm not sure if this really means anything or not, but the lack of toilet paper was also pretty much a big factor in that. So, if you're a developed country and you pretty much run out of toilet paper, you're pretty much screwed. I mean, literally, you're pretty much screwed. So, anyway, trying to remember some other things as well, but certainly the continuing arms race with the United States. I believe during the 80s, the Soviet Union overtook the U.S. in terms of the number of nuclear weapons. So anyway, so yeah, it was probably one of the most interesting pieces of writing that I ever wrote on Word documents. So, not sure what else to talk about. Anyway, I think I'll call this episode good. So I think I'll post another episode sometime on maybe Friday or Saturday, perhaps. So keep on the lookout for that. So thank you for listening to the Tom Retro Chronicle, episode 18. Definitely appreciate the views that I've gotten on YouTube. So definitely check that out. Check out the Twitter account. I usually post pretty much every day, post tweets every day. So definitely check out for that. So I am out. So later. Peace.